Hello there, and welcome to the School of Sci-Fi Academia. My name is Cademan David, and I'll be something of your tour guide through the world of space travel and time battles. I don't know, I'm still workshopping how to start these episodes. All that being said, today we are talking about the Doctor Who episode entitled New Earth. New Earth is an episode of Doctor Who that I come back to a lot. It's one of my favorite episodes. It might actually be the episode I've seen the most. And I think it would be really cool if the New Earth setting popped back up in current Doctor Who. The episode starts with David Tennant in the TARDIS and Rose leaving Jackie and Mickey to join him. This is a great way to sort of showcase that this is sort of a new era of the show. It does a little bit of explaining. The Doctor is this alien in the TARDIS, Rose is traveling with him, but she has this family that she's leaving, right? You could kind of start here. Now, a lot of people say start with the David Tennant era. I say those people are silly, silly people.
Stop being so silly!
Because the David Tennant era and the Eccleston era are both parts of the same story. It's not like the Matt Smith era, where it's barely even the same story. Also, fun detail is that we can actually see where it used to say Bad Wolf on the concrete as Rose is leaving. That's just a kind of neat tidbit there that shows a bit of continuity between this episode and the Christopher Eccleston era, which is cool. So the first place we go with this new Doctor, the only place that makes sense, New Earth.
So different.
New Doctor.
Now, although I'm not the biggest fan of the Tin and Rose relationship, I don't think that a Doctor-companion romance is necessarily a bad idea. Seeing the Doctor laying out his trench coat on the apple grass for him and Rose to lay on, it sort of shows who this Doctor is. He's a lot more willing to stop and take in the views than the Ninth Doctor probably would be, which is something Rose picks up on as well.
So different.
New Doctor.
But that's when we see a tiny mechanical spider, a very familiar tiny mechanical spider, spying on our two time travelers. Now, this episode is largely a sequel to The End of the World from Season 1. I really like when they do that sort of thing in Doctor Who. Have one episode sort of lead up to another. Something that you would also see with episodes like The Long Game leading into, of course, The Parting of the Ways. And what's really cool about this era of Doctor Who is that the timeline actually makes a amount of coherent sense. In the Stephen Moffat era, we'll have versions of the future, but it's all just very vague sort of, this happens in the future. There's no sort of coherent order that things take place in necessarily. Now, I'm sure you could kind of read one into the Stephen Moffat era, but I do appreciate in this era how it takes a little more time to sort of paint out a timeline. I have a long-held opinion that Doctor Who actually should take out the time to draw a coherent timeline and establish how different sort of things connect together, which is something that the show seems afraid to do as of late. Just firmly establish sort of the continuity between different events. Nonetheless, the Doctor reveals that he was called to this place by his psychic paper. I'm not exactly sure how getting a message via psychic paper works. If maybe you need to have, like, telepathy to send a message to psychic paper, like the Face of Bo does, or if, you need to have your own psychic paper and then it works like email. And I put something on my psychic paper, it sends it to your psychic paper. Who knows? Though I will say the face of Bo ends up being Jack Harkness, who also we know has used psychic paper. So maybe he has psychic paper, or understands how it works. I'm probably thinking about this too hard. It does bring up a question, how does the face of Bo have telepathic powers? Like, is that just an ability that humanity unlocks when it gets to be that old? Or maybe, like, the Doctor at one point teaches him, like, Time Lord mind links? Because, sometimes writers like Stephen Moffat like to pretend that the Doctor is also a Vulcan. And I just love when the Doctor and Rose find themselves in the hospital and the Doctor gets that banter about little shops. I just really like that sort of, part of the energy that David Tennant brings to the Doctor and his sort of little rantiness. It's a great source of comedy, and I understand it might not be a lot of people's cup of tea, like a lot of people might get annoyed at these sorts of references, but I do enjoy that side of the Doctor. And we get to see the type of people that populate New Earth. There's cat nuns, and they are very cool. Very cool cat nuns. Also, I'll just say that the cat makeup looks incredible, and it looks a million times better than whatever they were trying to do in the Interstellar Song Competition. All that being said, Tin and Rose get into separate elevators, and Billy Piper gets a very unpleasant surprise.
Stage 1 disinfection.
I'm sure you know this already, but the story goes is that they never told Billy Piper they were gonna spray her with water. So Rose's reaction in that shot is the genuine reaction of Billy Piper. And if you watch the scene, that adds up. But I also just love David Tennant's sort of reaction to this. What I like about David Tennant is, like, he sort of just steps into these cultures and he sort of just has a good time going along with the cultures that he steps into. And Matt Smith has a little bit of that as well, but it's just so much fun. I feel like you can really see that David Tennant is having fun playing Doctor Who. And that makes us have fun watch David Tennant play Doctor Who. And I think the way that Rose ends up being separated from the Doctor just sort of plays into a fear that I think we all probably kind of had as kids, where we would get separated from our parents or the group we're with in public places and not be able to find them. We're then introduced to the face of Bo, and I'm happy to see it. The face of Bo has such a cool design, and Murray Gold's music put behind it just makes him feel so majestic. Now, the story goes that Captain Jack was going to become the face of Bo in the episode The Good Man Goes to War. When the blue guy got his head chopped off, that was gonna be perhaps Captain Jack. A lot of people say that. I don't think that that's ever actually been confirmed by a official source. Like, I don't think Stephen Moffat or anyone who was working on Doctor Who has actually come out and say that's true. Anyone has come out and said that's true, but it might be. Who knows? And I love the way that the cat lady who's sort of watching over the face of Bo talks about him.
The rest of Bokind became extinct long ago. He's the only one left.
It's very reminiscent of, like, how characters talk about Aslan in Narnia.
Aslan is on the move.
Where there's just sort of this, like, magic and respect to mentioning the character, which I think is cool. And on note of the face of Bo, does anyone else think he looks a bit like a beholder? Like a two-eyed beholder? Like, I feel like his design has to be based on a beholder, right? Am I crazy? Am I crazy for thinking the face of Bo looks a little bit like a beholder? It's very cool to have a sort of magical, mythical character besides just the Doctor, and the face of Bo does that pretty well. I like how the face of Bo even seems to be something of a mystery to the Doctor, which, you know, makes sense if he is Captain Jack. And I love how much empathy the Doctor has for this big weird alien in a jar. I know I talk about this all the time in a lot of my videos, but it's just so important for the character of the Doctor that he has this sort of empathy. Unless the point of the story is that this is an area where he's lacking empathy, like the episode Dalek is a great example of that sort of story. But Dalek doesn't work if we don't see areas where he has that empathy. And even in Dalek, I would say that largely the point of that story is that it's a shortcoming of the Doctor that he kind of lacks that empathy for Daleks.
Why don't you just die?
And the shot of the Doctor just putting his hand on the container of the face of Bo is just, it's such a cool looking shot. And again, Murray Gold's music behind it is just so good here. I just absolutely love the tone and feel of like this entire scene with him, with the Doctor and the cat nurse and the face of Bo. It's too bad we had all of that Disney money and we never got anything cool like this. It's just such a shame that we didn't get that many cool, interesting settings in the Disney Plus era. I mean, this sort of setting is a lot more interesting than just about anything we saw in that Disney Plus era. And they were doing weird aliens without the budget. Compare this to the Interstellar Song Contest or something like that. This looks way better. The only real aliens we got in the Disney Plus era was from like the Interstellar Song Competition, and there was like the Praying Mantis guys in the Star Beast, as well as the Meep. Real quick side note though, did anyone else feel like those Praying Mantis guys kind of should have been the Jadoon? I mean, I know they were from a comic that predates the Jadoon. Like, the role they play in that story is very Jadoon-esque. I mean, they're cool, but I always love to see a Jadoon, and kind of wish that they were Jadoon. Now, probably because we've seen the Jadoon come back fairly recently, they didn't want to necessarily do them again, which I guess is understandable enough. But I like a Jadoon. Show me more Jadoons, Russell, or whoever's next. Disney Plus just never had as much fun with its settings. Can you imagine if we got to see New Earth with Disney money behind it? That could have been so much fun. We're treated to the return of Cassandra in this episode. That's right, weird skin, fleshy, stretchy thing. I don't want to call her a trampoline because the episode calls her a trampoline, and I want to be more creative than that. She's a trampoline, I guess. Fine. I'll say the thing. She's a trampoline. We have a fun sort of body switch story go on here with Cassandra, and it gives Billie Piper and David Tennant a way to just have a lot of fun and act their hearts out.
Two hearts. Oh, baby, I'm beating out a samba.
You know, I've done some acting myself, and I would love if, like, I got the chance to play a character like Cassandra. inside of another character. Yeah, we'll go with that. And it's a fun bit of storytelling, just that Cassandra is the one who kind of picks up on that something shady is going on in the hospital. It sort of just wraps the two sort of plot lines together quite nicely. I think one of the coolest scenes is the doctor just bringing a glass of water to the Catwoman who's watching over the face of Beau.
Harmony and health.
It's very kind.
It's one of those scenes that just reminds me why the 10th Doctor was kind of a role model to me as a little kid. It's just sort of a casual kindness that I love the fact that they implemented into this iteration of the Doctor. We also get a reference to Beaukind in this episode. I don't know what Beaukind is, because I'm pretty sure Captain Jack is a human, so I don't know what Beaukind is. Yeah, I don't know how that works. I guess I wouldn't be surprised if Captain Jack just had so many kids and lived long enough to create an entire species. But then did Beaukind just look like people, or did they look like the face of Beau? Maybe let's not worry about that too much. Fact is, they probably didn't know that Captain Jack was going to be the face of Beau when they wrote that line, and that's why they did it. But it gets a little confusing. There's a few lines that are kind of confusing if Captain Jack is the face of Beau. I love the room with the clone patients that they're testing diseases on. And the design of it, it's very Borg-esque or perhaps Matrix. I think it just looks cool. And conceptually, also very cool. I particularly like how we see from the eyes of one of the patients as the cat people are talking about how it's not actually a person, right? It's a good way to instill empathy for these patients, for these sort of creatures that were grown to just test diseases on. And I think that's sort of the highlight of the story, is that they're making sure we care about these patients, which I think is cool. I think is very Doctor Who. And then I love the scream from the tank as the Catwomen disintegrate the patient whose eyes we were just looking through.
Standard procedure, incinerate.
It's so fun, but it's funny and it's dark. It's a little bit dark, but it's a little bit dark in a campy kind of way. And that's what Doctor Who, I think, that's what they should aim for. They should aim for a little bit dark, but in a campy kind of way. That's what we want from Doctor Who. That's what I want from Doctor Who. I don't know if that's what you want, but that's what I want. Now, there's a kiss, they do some kissing, there's a kiss in this episode, and story goes that was improvised by Billie Piper just because she really wanted to kiss David Tennant. I'm pretty sure that's not true. You can look into it for yourself. A lot of people are saying it, but I'm pretty sure that is not true. I'm pretty sure it was actually Russell T that said that as a joke, when he was recording a commentary with Billie Piper and David Tennant, because you could think about, it would be kind of funny to say something like that when you're there with those people, But I think that's where that bit of trivia comes from. I'm pretty sure it's not true. And there's this standout moment in this episode where when David Tennant discovers the patients and he just looks at it and he says, "I'm sorry."
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
And David Tennant plays that empathy so well. And, I'm not going to go on another rant about how the empathy of the Doctor is so important, but, insert the rant from earlier in this video right here. it still applies. And while the Doctor should be empathetic, he also has to have a darker side, right? Which we see in this scene, which is really cool.
They were born sick. They're meant to be sick. They exist to be sick. Lab rats.
And you can kind of see in that scene how David Tennant, he has that darker side that's actually fueled by his empathy. He's so upset that these people have been having just every disease imaginable forced upon them. And it's really cool. It's really cool, the anger behind that. Now, the cat person calls the patients that they're like putting all of the diseases into, she calls them flesh, which makes me wonder, did this episode inspire the Matt Smith episode? You know, the one with the flesh? Oh, there's too many Matt Smiths, oh no! I remember particularly liking that episode. We'll see when I get to it in my reactions. No, but it's just kind of fun. I could see connective themes between this and the idea of the flesh. Anyway, this is just a little ramble my head went on, so I said, hey, I'm going to take my audience there with me. Now, I do like that the Doctor picks up on that Rose isn't actually Rose because of her lack of empathy. However, this scene does feel a little too overprotective boyfriend for my taste.
Whatever you've done to Rose's head, I want it reversed.
This line is brilliant.
The Sisterhood is a charity. We don't give money. We only accept.
Absolutely brilliant. Great sort of satirical line. I love just the sort of tongue-in-cheek, clever humor of this era of the show. It's so fun. It's so fun. It's so fun! It is very fun. You know what else is really fun? When we see Cassandra switching back and forth between Rose and the Doctor on the ladder. Is just a very fun scene. I appreciate the comedy there. I also love when Cassandra puts herself in the body of one of the flesh, and she has every disease imaginable, but her concern is how she looks. Now, this is very fitting for Cassandra's character because obviously her character is sort of a parody on beauty standards and things like that. But I can't help but just picture a different version of this episode in my head where she goes into that person's body and she just like screams out in pain and she's like, every part of me hurts. That version would also be very fun, just to showcase, oh yeah, these people, you know, they have every disease. They don't feel good. They don't feel happy. But probably the version they went with is better and more family friendly. Though I would argue Doctor Who, sometimes they sanitize it too much, and no one likes it. It's really cool when David Tennant starts to be just a little bit softer with Cassandra. When she shows her first little bit of empathy after being in the head of this diseased patient. And it just sort of, it showcases, I think, the Doctor in that moment, seeing that there is something still human about Cassandra. There's something in her that's kind of a little bit kind and maybe a little bit regretful of her actions. And, you know, it's a very small part of the episode. I don't even know if, like, the script writers necessarily intended it. We see her feeling bad, and then the Doctor's like, okay, maybe I can actually trust you a little bit. Maybe I can get you to help me save them, and then that will sort of grow that goodness that I see within you here. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but that is very much the story I like to read into this here. I think it fits and works well.
It's your last warning, Cassandra!
So alone. Keep reaching out just to hold us all their lives. And they've never been touched.
And overall, this episode, you know, is very well put together, and the ending is very well foreshadowed. We get the sanitizing in the elevator scene, right? Which not only is a funny bit with Rose being sprayed and being like, oh no, I didn't know I was being sprayed, ah! But we also have, like, him talking about how, like, they have the cure for basically every disease. And it's even sort of foreshadowed that the flesh, I guess, the patients that they put all the disease into, that they've never been touched.
Never been touched.
Because that's actually how they get healed in the end of the episode, which is so cool. It's that little element, I think, is very fun. It's very good. Side note on that, though, the scene where the patient, she just gets up and hugs the doctor after he cures all of them, it's just the cutest thing.
Oh, that's right. Hey, there we go, sweetheart.
It's just so sweet. I'm a little bit of a sappy guy, but like, it's just so cool, that sort of idea of these people being treated so terribly, and then the doctor comes and he heals them and he shows them kindness. And then she's like, I'm just gonna give him a hug to say thanks. That's so nice! I like it. It's fun, it's good, it's fun, it's good. The last line that the Face of Bo has in this episode, as confusing as the Face of Bo being Captain Jack is, this last line coming from Captain Jack does make a lot of sense.
I have grown tired with the universe, Doctor, but you have taught me to look at it anew.
Credit where it's due, that line does sound like Captain Jack. And the last scene of Cassandra talking to her past self before she dies is very cool. I think we all kind of wish that we could go back and talk to our younger selves and just say how much we appreciate them.
No, I just wanted to say, you look beautiful.
Maybe that's just me. Maybe it's, again, me being a little bit of a sappy guy. Maybe that's it. But I just think it's very cool, and it's very beautiful. It's very pretty. Alright, everyone, that will bring us to the end of this lecture in my school for science fiction, for sci-fi, for sci-fi-ish fiction. Thank you so much for listening. I will say, if you're a regular viewer of this channel, thanks for being here. I also did a part 1 of a reaction to this video. I don't know that I'm gonna put part 2 out, because the audio was a little off, and I just thought it would be better to do this version instead. So if you were confused about that, there's your explanation. But yeah, thank you so much for being here. Let me know, do you like New Earth as much as I do? Probably not. But I would love to hear what your thoughts are of the episode in the comments below. And anyone who writes a comment, or leaves a like on this video, or subscribes to the Sci-Fi Academia YouTube channel, you will get an automatic A+ from me to you. What does that mean? Nothing, just like grades in real life. Oh, there's a little bit of spunk in me, a little bit of activism against the public school system. Bet you didn't see that coming. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Come back again, and live long and prosper, my students. Bye-bye!